So this is the new session that starts for the acrylic class. And in this class, we're going to focus on how to draw first and then paint a building.
Ooh,
Yes.
nice.
And this is all in preparation for in June, when we're in the studio, we will paint a farm. So we will have like a house or a barn that will be similar to what we have practiced in this session. We will also add a silo or a bunch of silos. So I have an example of something similar to what we're going to do next session that I thought I'd show you just to entice you. So this is a watercolor. And it's an example of a barn building with a silo. So it's got different challenges. So if you look at the barn, you have the challenge of, having to figure out, these lines, are they all parallel? Or do they actually converge a little bit? Especially that we're seeing this. So that means they would converge a little bit to the vanishing point. And then this silo is interesting because it's like a cone. And if the light is hitting this portion of the silo, then you have to then indicate some darkness. But then on the other side, there's some reflected light. So it's also, it's another type of challenge. And then you have this little steeple here that's also very interesting. And that's another nice little challenge. But if we were to do just a silo in acrylic, it could look like this.
Ooh.
So, and look how the color's very harmonious. If you look at the color wheel, so we have the green, the teal, the blue, and the indigo purple here. So they're all very contiguous on the color wheel. But this is, after I did this example, I painted it and I recorded the recording. I realized, oh, this is for next session. But I'm going to show you the recording anyway, because I won't be able to show it in a studio. There are some advantages to doing an online class. So I did do an example of, the drawing of the building.
Wow, that's nice.
And if we just take the silo, then, we can get something like this. So,
Very nice.
Yeah, this is just something fun to do. But for today, we are going to draw smaller. And these are some examples of what I have prepared. And we're going to do not the whole thing of everything, all the buildings and the silos. And here you have several buildings in the silo. So we're going to pick one building and we're going to do that. And we're going to do a thumbnail. And then we're going to do another one, and do another one. So I've prepared some photos to show you, and so that we can pick what we're going to draw. And I think I'm going to share my screen to show you this. All right. Let me see. Here it is. Pictures, farm class, demos. Okay. So I have a time-lapse demonstration of painting the silo that I thought I'd show you. So I'm going to start from the start. So I painted this on a panel. This panel is 12 by 16. And so I put a tape here to frame this section that is 8 by 12. And the reason I do this is so I have an example on one side, and if I show you how to do the different steps, then I have the other side where I can show you, and at the same time you can see the actual subject matter. So the first thing is to draw the cylinder. Basically, it's a rectangle with a little hat on top. What's important when doing this drawing is that the little hat on top, the pointy area, this area here of the hat has to be completely in the middle, in between these two lines, so that it actually looks like it's resting comfortably on top of the silo. And depending on where you are standing when you're looking at the silo, in this example, I painted it so that the viewer's eyes is at the ground level, and so therefore the little hat has a frown in terms of the curve that is sitting on the little rectangle. And then each of these frown has less and less curve as we come down, because it's getting to a straight line where the eye level is. So first step is to cover all of that space, going a little lighter on the left, because that's where the light comes from, and darker in the middle, and then a little light on the right as well because of the reflected light. Then same thing with the hat or roof. Then I add the greens at the bottom with a little road, some mountains in the back. And so once I'm here, I have covered the whole canvas, but the colors are very, very thin, and I want to refine the colors and push them even further. Because when I first painted this section of the silo, which was the darkest dark at the time, it looked really, really dark against the white canvas that was behind it. Now that I've put the sky and the mountains, then this doesn't look so dark. So now I want to go back on top and make it darker. So this is how I do it. So I made the light lighter and the dark darker. And then I do the same thing with the roof. Oops, upside down. So when I did the second coat, I made sure that this is more of a purple color, because the purple is the darkest color I can obtain by mixing the red and blue. And for the roof, I made it more of a teal color. So it's a blue that has a little yellow in it. And so it gives me a nice contrast. And one of the things that I made sure that I had was a little area here that comes around. It's like the underneath of the cylinder, the roof. And this color, I made it green, because it's like the ground color is reflecting there. That's how I decided to make it green. And then I do another layer on the mountains and on the sky, and voila, it's done. Now if I go here, maybe I'll see it better. Yeah. And I sign it, of course. Now, one thing that I want to bring attention to is, see this area here? I actually added a little bit of green on there, because the light that's hitting the grass here is actually reflecting onto the silo, and that's why it's got some green on here. Any questions on this? All right. So if we look at the drawing that I did, so now this drawing I didn't do in time lapse, but I can certainly play it quick. So the first step is to draw the house. And I made sure that when I drew the house, then that these lines are somewhat converging towards a vanishing point that would be far in the far right. Then I add the silo. So once I have all of my shapes of the house and the silo, that's when I start adding, you know, more detail, like the door and the little steeple and the other door, the barn door, and then the roof, the lines on the roof. Once I have all of this and I'm happy with it, then that's when I start the shading. So note how here I did the whole thing very dark, and then I used my kneaded eraser to indicate some of the, there are some pieces of wood that hold the barn, the roof of the barn. And so I'm drawing them with my kneaded eraser. It makes it a lot easier than trying to save that area when I'm doing the dark there. So put a little side, and it doesn't have to be completely white, so it works. Then I do the silo, and I do the same thing here. So here I did the dark, and using my kneaded eraser, in those little rims around the silo, I use the kneaded eraser to erase those rims. This way, it's just faster. Then I add the grass and the tree in the back. And some other little detail. The tiles in the roof. Then I have to make sure that I add the shadow of the house, because this little steeple is casting a shadow on the roof, and therefore the house will also cast a shadow on the ground. And these little trees here, they will cast a somewhat of a little shadow. So there. And this is the finishing touches. So the barn has, you know, planks, and so there are crevices and areas where it's lighter and darker. And see how, if you look at my mouth, I'm actually holding my breath. Look at this. I'm holding my breath. That's not good. Make sure when you do it, you don't hold your breath. So that's the finished product. And when I was doing this, I used, you know, from 4H to 8B, you know, I used all of my pencils, some lighter, some darker. And I can keep going, but I decided to sign it. Any questions on this?
You make it look easy.
I know.
Well, you know, if it doesn't work, I can always you know, record a new one. So these are examples of the steps that I did when I did the drawing of these two barns. So draw a farm, I call it draw a farm. So the first step is to draw the lines. And in this case, the barn here is a very simple building, and you cannot see the sides because we're really facing the side of the barn. I chose this one so that, you know, we could start with something simple. And then there's the road here. So once I have all these lines and that they are straight and they are what I want, then in this case, I start with the lightest gray that I see on the photo, including the fence line. After that, I added the mid-tone, which was the whole barn and all of the grass. Then I added the darkest dark, which is there was a line of trees here in the background. And also this barn has an open door. And then for the finishing touch, I add a little bit of grass that is also the darkest dark, because in a field, there are those areas and roads and, you know, shrubs that are growing. So it makes it more interesting. And it was on the photo. So that's the first one that I did an example of. In this other one, there are actually three silos. And the buildings, these two houses here, or buildings, are completely from the side. So that's why we see, you know, the roof that is like a little hat, and same thing with this building, but we don't see either side, this one or this one, but we actually do a little bit, see a little bit of this side, but not really. So I picked this one also because it's another simplified way of doing a building. It's a great way to start. And this little shed that's next to it was completely sideways, so it's also fairly easy building. In this case, I started with the darks. So the silos in the photo were the darkest dark, as well as this other little building here on the back. I also put a very light tone on the grass that's in the front. And then as the mid-tone, I added, there was a line of tree here in the background. Then I added this house that's also mid-tone. And I was going to add this other little one, but I wanted to show how I do these windows. So I actually do two rectangle, one on top of the other, and I blackened the inside and all the way around. So that's what I did here. And the space between the two rectangle always look larger. And I always make sure that I make it larger than it looks, so that when I actually cover the building, I can, if I want to, make it a little smaller, you know, the white frame of the window. But if I make it too thin to start with in this phase, then I sometimes lose it. And this building here is a little closer to the viewer, so it becomes part of the darkest dark as well. And then these other buildings here are added, the house, and I added some twigs in the front. And now that I've done this, I wanted to ask you guys, do you think it's well balanced?
Yeah, yes, I do.
Yeah. Would you change anything to make it more, you know, a little bit stronger composition, perhaps?
It seems like a lot of weight on the right. I mean, I like to turn it upside down to see what it looks like upside down to see if it's balanced.
Yeah.
Can't tell, but it just seems like there's a lot on the right. And I'm not sure where the light's coming from.
Yeah. It was a great day. So
Yeah.
there was no real, you know, no real shadow anywhere.
And the building to the far left, is that a white, was it just a white farmhouse?
Yeah, it's the White House that's
Yeah.
there. Actually, I'll show you the photo. I just closed in on these buildings.
So that
And
looks like the focus point is the building to the far right. Is that correct?
Yeah, the big barn. Your eye goes right to it.
yeah, and that's good.
Yeah.
I think if we lowered a little bit, you know, the tree line, and maybe add like a tree that is there over here, that might be interesting. But anyway, so I thought I'd ask you this.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to show you the photos. And as we go through the photos, then you can note which ones you like best. I'm going to start with this one. Oops, it's in the way. Let me go like this. You guys see this?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So do you recognize this one? This is the first one that I showed you.
Yep.
See how the road is actually barely indicated, but on my drawing, I took, you know, I took the liberty of actually indicating a real road.
Right.
But these posts here that are right in front of us are the posts on the right-hand side of the road. And the posts that are on the left-hand side are just these little things here that we see. We see two of them here and here. And in the back, we can see a little bit. But see this barn, one thing that we can see in the picture, and I'm gonna zoom in a little bit on the barn building. So if I go like this, can you see how the roof goes a little darker at the top than here closer to where it meets the red?
Why is that?
It's a round roof.
Ah,
So if you want to represent the fact that it's a round roof, then you'd have to paint that in.
Okay.
A little bit like here on the silo with the close-up, you can see that on the right-hand side is darker than on the left-hand side because the light comes from the left.
Mhm.
And this section, the right section of the silo, is in the shadow, in the shade. But I simplified it. I didn't add all these little windows or these windows here. And then, but there is this little building here. Now, if I go back to the full view, like this, now you can see those lines of little grass and twigs in the middle. See, there's one line here. There's one line closer to the barn. And so those make it interesting to indicate that it's a field, and you know, it's not just you know, a flat surface. There's grass there, there's little twigs and shrubs, and when painting it, it's interesting to include those.
Would you use that for like the compositions to kind of lead the eye to the, you know, like zigzag into wherever you want the focus point to be?
Yeah, well, it creates a nice movement, and it helps the eye to travel in the picture. So yes, absolutely. This is why it's important to include those. Now, one thing that I want to bring your attention to is look at the faraway mountain. Compare the color of the faraway mountain to this line of tree that is the darkest dark that we have. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
We know the faraway mountain is also all trees, but the color is so different in the tone. It's like completely subdued. So when saying that, when the furthest the mountain is, the more it's going to become gray, and it won't have as much yellow in the trees in the faraway mountain. This is a very good example of this. All right, where's the next photo? I don't know. I'll just go like this. So make sure you make a note of, you know, if you like this one or that one, or. So that was number one. This is number two. The reason I picked this one is because this is Great Book Farms.
Oh, really?
In Carlisle, yes. And it's got some complexity to the building. I think this is certainly not the first building that we could do, but if we,
ice cream stand
yes,
on the left. Yes.
yes. So if I were to, let's see.
Oh, no, maybe not. I'm not sure which side of the building it's on.
If
Yes,
you were-
this is, I'm gonna make it bigger.
If on painting or drawing this, would you eliminate the telephone pole, or would you put that in?
Whoops. What happened? Okay, so I can't make it bigger. Yeah, that's a good question. It says ice cream right here, Janet,
Yes, that's it. Yep.
and there's a cow. So, so would you eliminate or not the telephone pole? It all depends how you decide to do the interpretation of the painting. What I would do, and I recommend that this, this as a potential approach. So you can do the whole painting without the telephone pole and the telephone lines and see if you like it. Does it seem like a strong composition? Or if once you're done, you feel like there's a need to have the pole right there and the lines, then you add them. I suspect the telephone pole is not needed just because there's a tree in almost the same position, and that gives the vertical line. So that pole's probably not needed.
When you look at photographs, like this is where I have trouble. Do you determine like what you want as the focal point before you start drawing? Like when you look at this, like.
Yeah, if I were to do this one,
Yeah.
I think I would probably try to crop it slightly differently.
Okay.
So I might decide to do something like this. See?
Yeah, I like that.
I like that better.
So that takes away, it takes away a lot of the complexity that we're not sure what to do with. And it has a very interesting shape to the building. The silo is right there next to it. I might make this silo a little higher, a little taller, and I would eliminate that tree branch in the upper left corner. And
so if you make it taller, and then like if I'm trying to visualize it as like the rule of thirds, or what do you call it when you divide it into three, the thirds.
yes,
Where the intersections are.
yes. Well, what would be the center of interest here? It would probably be this area. If I make this small, a little taller. So this area, see how dark the right side of the silo is? And so this dark against the very light sky is where I have the biggest contrast. So it would make sense to make that the center of interest.
Okay. Yeah, I like it cropped like that.
Yeah. Let's see. So this is one example where I actually use this photo. See how you can see the whole of this whole farm. This is one of the ones that I chose to draw from. There are 4 silos. I only included 2. And there's all these buildings on the right-hand side that I did not include. The mountains, the foreground. See the whole house? You were asking about the white house?
Yeah.
So what I did is I cropped it this way. So I cropped it this way, but when I did, then I lost focus a little bit.
Was that taken up in New Hampshire?
These are photos that I found on the internet.
Oh, okay.
And I think this one is in Vermont. And then, after I cropped it this way, I went, yeah, this is still very complex. So I chose to do just, certain buildings. So this one here. And then I only included 3 silos, a little bit of the house.
Yeah.
See, this is how the trees are. And in this composition, the tree line with the silo and the house, it almost gives us half of sky and half of the rest. So I'm not sure that this is a very strong composition. I think if there was a little bit less sky, that would be stronger. So you can, the great thing with technology, we can do what we want, right? So we could go like this and decide not to put the tallest of the silo. So we would have 3 silos. It depends. If you're doing a farm portrait for the owner, you can't do that. But if you're just doing just a practice, then you could. So the great thing, I'm going to cancel that. Cancel. Oops. Okay. So the great thing with a photo like this, you could do like 10 different drawings, and none of them would be the same. And what I like about these buildings is there's like this big house and the little one in front are
Yeah.
very simple. And so is this one, because it's straight, you know, straight on. It's like a rectangle, and you just put a little line here to put the roof. So I like that. Now this one here doesn't have a silo, but has a very high level of complexity.
Yeah.
However, if we were just to do this one building in the front, now this is a very nice choice to practice the vanishing point, because the building here is definitely, we're seeing it like from the corner, and so therefore the roof line here goes down as it moves to the left, and the ground line moves up and it goes to the left. So definitely at some point in the far left, these 2 lines would meet. And so therefore that's where the vanishing point would be. Perplexed? Or yes.
Yeah, I get it.
Where's the eye level on that? That's where I get confused. Like, is it at the tip of the roof? Like,
So the eye level is usually where the lines are most horizontal. So if you look at the lines up here, they're kind of a little bit slanted, and down here it's a little bit slanted, going up to the right, going down to the right. Whereas see where the color of the barn wood changes?
Yeah.
This line is pretty much horizontal. And same thing here on this side. So this is probably the height at which the photographer was standing. That's where his eye level was. So that's how you can determine that. And therefore, your vanishing point will be on this level. So if you were to draw a line and go way to the left,
yeah,
that's where the vanishing point would be.
it's interesting. A lot of angles on this one.
Yeah. Well, and the building that's behind it has all sorts of new other angles that if we were to choose this, we would just draw just this one building.
Right, because behind to the right of the closest building, are those silos?
Yeah, I think this is kind of like a different kind of silo.
Seem kind of,
yeah. Built differently.
Interesting. Yeah, and then going into the roof.
Yeah.
Huh.
So the next one that I have is this one. So this one has a silo, and the photograph is a little grainy, but this gray barn here on the left is similar in shape to the previous building that we looked at, except the eye level. Now, where is the eye level in this photo, do you think?
In the grass?
Yes, it would be in the grass. Why'd you say that?
Because you're looking up a hill.
Yes, you are. And
on a hillside.
I thought it'd be the top of the horizontal roof.
This here?
The long
This one?
Yeah, the top roof. I thought that would be eye level.
This?
Yeah.
Well, if this were the eye level, then all of the building, all of the lines and all the buildings would go straight across horizontally. So this is true for this roof. It's somewhat true for this building too, but look at the side here. On the left, the roof line completely goes down.
Mhm.
And so therefore, that tells me that this is not where the eye level was. And it's not, because this line of the roof is not completely horizontal. Even where it meets the ground, it still goes down.
Okay.
So that's why, and that's why it would be down here somewhere. This
Yeah.
building is sideways.
Yeah.
So it's a lot harder to tell. But when you look at this building here, where the vanishing point clearly is somewhere in the left, on the left, well, this goes down too. So in order for these to meet, they would meet somewhere in the left, on the left, lower than the ground.
Okay.
So, and the vanishing point is always on the horizon line, on, you know, the eye level. It's always at the eye level. Next one, this one. So this one here is interesting because it's fairly simple. We see the building sideways. This one, this building, except for we see a little bit of the side on the left. So now in this case, what's interesting about this photo is that we have the other little building here, the shed on the right-hand side, whoops, on the right-hand side. And this building is where we could have some nice challenge, because we clearly see two sides. And now in this photo, where do you think the eye level is? Ooh, that's a trick question.
Is it the base of that large roof?
I've been tempted to say yes.
Maybe, right?
Yeah, I'd be tempted to say yes. And the reason that I would say yes is, well, I mean, on this building here, I mean,
Mhm.
all of the planks are horizontal, so it's hard to identify it by looking at these planks, right?
Yeah.
However, if we look at the line of this roof and see it goes up and down, and we can see the line of the roof on the other side of the building, just this little thing here. So let me make this a little bit bigger so we can see. And this line almost lines up with this line here. So if I were to draw a line between this corner here and this corner here, it would almost be horizontal. So if it were completely horizontal, I would say, yes, this is where the eye level is. Since it goes up a little bit, then the eye level is probably a little higher than the bottom of the roof. But that's really hard to tell.
Yeah.
Now, if we look at the little building here, you can tell here how, see the line of the roof? If I make it even bigger, that we can. So this roof line here, compare with this roof line here in the back. Can you tell how this is much higher than this one? And so therefore it goes up. If we were to draw a line between this corner here and this one here, draw a line, it will go up. And so therefore the eye level is definitely much higher than this roof line. All right, are you taking notes which you like best? So here's another one. Now this has a certain level of complexity, but I thought it was very interesting. With all the nice, excuse me, the nice fall colors.
Yeah.
And these are more like flat buildings.
That's a lot of texture.
Yeah, a lot of textures in the back.
Yeah.
And then I have one more. It's this one here. This is, I thought this was very pretty. But this here is quite challenging because this road here is going downwards. And so it adds to the complexity. But if we were to just, use the two little buildings here, now this reduces the level of complexity, although there is still quite some, there's still some complexity here. But these buildings are very interesting. Now, one last one here. This is interesting too. Look at how, we can see how the roof is completely curved. But we see only the side of the barn. So we don't have the complexity of having to decide where is the vanishing point on this photo, because we just see the side of the barn and one silo. That's it. And we can clearly see where the light comes from. It comes from the left. So that's why the barn has creates a nice shadow on the silo, and the right side of the silo is completely dark. All right, so now enough with the talking. Now we got to get some drawing done. Do you have any preference on like one that stands out to you that you can tell? Or would you like to see them again? And you could say this one or this one. How's that?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd be good to see them again.
Okay, starting with this one.
Now, when we're doing this, would we crop any of them or
Okay, so what we're going to do in this class is for any of these photos, we're only going to pick one building and not a silo, and we would crop in on the building. So we're going to do some thumbnails, and we're probably going to do maybe 2 or 3, depending on how much time we take to do one.
Mhm.
And so you can tell me which ones you like. Let's pick 3. And then
We're focusing on just buildings at this point.
yeah, just buildings. Yeah. And in our future classes, then we'll see if we include other things and what we decide to paint. So that would be number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2, that's very complex though. Number 3, here you can just pick one. Like you could pick the White House, for example, or the red barn, or the mini red barn. And so that's number 3. Oops, I cropped it myself. Number 4. Number 5, but that one's kind of grainy, so I don't like it so much. Number 6. 7. Oh, the 2 little houses. 8, and that's the same thing. 9. So did you note 3?
Yep.
Okay, which did you note?
I had 4, 6, and 7.
4, 6, and 7. What about you, Janet?
I had 3 as my first choice, 1 and 4.
All right. So, okay, let me go like this. This one, this one. That's 1, 3, 4, 6, and 7. Okay, so I'm going to open them all. So this is 7. And I think this is, I forget now. This is
That's
number 2.
That's
3.
number 3, isn't it?
Yeah, this is number 3. So this is the one that I did.
Yep.
And I should have numbered them.
So that's 4.
That's 4. So this
Yeah.
one, you both chose to do this one.
Yes.
So perhaps we can start with this one. And then I keep going. This one, number 6, is fairly simple. So I like this one for this reason.
Mhm.
Number 7, that one is, I mean, it's got some beautiful trees, but it's not about the trees. And these buildings are,
I like it because it's probably, I probably wouldn't like it so much if we couldn't do the silos. I mean, maybe that'd be good when we have more experience.
yeah.
I just like the reasons that we can't do, I guess.
Yeah. And so Janet, you chose this one for which building?
You mean which of the buildings to the right?
So the little one or the big one?
It could be either.
Okay, so this shaped building. So that's fairly simple. And then you also chose this one. Oops.
But
Oh,
I do like the other one as well.
yeah, you like this one.
No, that was, yeah. But I think of the ones Pam liked,
Yes,
there's one more
it's this one.
with the vanishing point. No, the other one.
This one. Yes.
Yeah, did she like that? Pam, did
Yeah,
you like?
both of you chose this one.
I like that, but if we have to do one building, then it's hard because I think what I like is the challenge of all the angles
Right.
perspective. You know what I mean? That it, I can see it now, I'll be challenged with it, but, and then you have the fence, which is another angle, you know, but that's why I like it, because it's like so many different angles. It's like, boom.
Yes. Yes.
The fence actually follows the same vanishing point. So since
really?
both of you chose this one,
Yeah, it's parallel. Yep.
since both of you chose this one, let's do this one.
Okay.
I thought this is where I'm trapped. I can't even figure out the vanishing points because
Well,
the fence, you say it's parallel, but the building is, I don't get it.
right. So how about
But I like all the angles.
oh yes, you guys. I did the class last week. You know, I did a conference.
Mhm.
I attended a conference on Zoom. And during some of the demonstrations, I painted along. I'll just show you one of them. Since this is the acrylic class, I'll show you one that I did in acrylic. So the guy was painting a mountain, so I painted along with him.
Wow.
Wow. Looks like Mont Saint-Michel.
I've never been there, but I've heard of it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So the guy was painting in oil, and he was actually painting a very large canvas, probably 16 by 20, or it was actually long. So perhaps 12 by 24. Anyway, his mountain was actually, the steeple of the mountain was higher than the top, but I wanted to show the steeple. And I mean, I pretty much followed here, but then when it was time to do this part, I fell behind. And then he added trees here, and because he had pre-recorded certain portion of his painting that were like in accelerated. So it's like, oh my God, that's
Wow.
the best.
Well, you were not sketching first at all, right?
Oh no. I completely, he said, okay, here's a line for this, and I just painted along with him. But
Ah.
he had some portion that were accelerated. So anyway, it came out pretty good, considering this is a 1 hour demonstration.
All that just in an hour?
Yeah,
Whoa.
but this is small little 5x7. Well,
Yes.
what I'm gonna do with all these demonstrations, I think I'm gonna put them at 50% in my, for sale in my studio. Just because, it's not my original work,
Right.
copied someone else, but I did my own interpretation of what he was showing anyway. But I'm not gonna show you them all right now. We have some work to do. You guys have gotten a little lazy, not doing any kind of drawing in the last 3 weeks.
We're rusty.
Yes.
We are I am rusty.
All right. So the concept of vanishing point. First of all, it's important to recognize where is the eye level, because the vanishing point is always on the eye level. And what is the eye level? If there was a person here standing like this, looking at the scene, the eye of this person, smiley, the eye of this person would be on the eye level. So I'm going to draw this line right here. That is my eye level. So I have a large sheet of paper. This is 14 by 17 so that I can do it large. Can you see good enough? Need to make sure that I don't trip my water.
Yeah, we can't really see the person.
If you draw with a darker pencil.
Yes, that's
It'll
what I'm gonna do. Yeah, so this is the vanishing point that's on the eye level. And the vanishing point is where all the lines will converge. So think of a railroad track. If you're standing on a railroad track and this railroad track is straight and it goes completely, like it goes for miles, you're going to see that at some point the two rails will meet in the far, far distance. And that's where the vanishing point is in that case. And if you're standing on the railroad track, the level at which the two rails meet will be at your eye level, because you are the little man standing there, with the eye level at this level. Now, if we have a house, in the case of the barn that we're thinking to draw, so the roof line will point to the vanishing point, and the top of the roof will also point to the vanishing point. So I'm making these lines like this. And then the top of the roof will also point to the vanishing point. Oops, better if the line is straight. And at the ground level, it will also point to the vanishing point. So here, this line is a line for the ground. Oh, can you see? If I go like this, you can see better, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So why don't I turn my easel? So the top line here, that's the top of the roof. And this line is the bottom of the roof, where the roof meets. So this one here. Bottom of roof. All right, so Of course, if we're drawing a specific building, we would be very, we would pay attention to how high is the wall and what are the angle of these lines. But in this case, I'm just showing you the concept of the vanishing point. So I am just making up the sizes, okay? So the sidewall of the barn will be between the ground and the bottom of the roof. So I'm going to put this barn right here. So this is the back wall, and this is the corner wall. Now it's very important these lines be completely vertical. And now, just to make it complicated even more, when we have a building where we see two sides, that means there are two vanishing points of the building. So the other vanishing point would be way to the right. So I didn't leave enough space on my paper to include that, but that's where it is. And I'm just going to draw it like this. And then like this. So the barn, this is the other wall. So, and these two lines converge to the right. To a vanishing point that is on the right hand side, but because my page is not big enough, we can't see it. So this is the wall that is like this, and this is the wall like this. Now the roof has we know that this is the top of the roof, this is the bottom of the roof, but the roof has a little point, like a little triangle on top of this here. So the triangle will be about the middle of this. And so therefore will just be like this. So the point is in the middle of these two lines, and it just goes from here to the point and from here to the point. Now, the other line that will complete our roof. Now, this is the tricky one. So this line of the roof here, this one here, has a certain angle. And when drawing the end of the roof here, the angle of this line has to be at least as inclined as this one. But in reality, these two lines actually converge and will meet somewhere in the stars. So therefore, the angle of this needs to be a little bit more on the back of the roof. So if I were to take the angle of this and keep the same angle and put it here, this roof would look pretty good. But this line here should be a little bit more slanted, and the best way to know what angle it should have is by looking at the building and just getting that angle. But it has to be at least this angle and a little bit more. So this is the exact same angle as this, so I'm going to give it a little bit more angle.
Okay, so you're shifting it to the right, obviously.
right, because these two lines would eventually meet in the sky
Right.
where the stars are. So I'm just gonna make it a little bit more in. Erase the first one. Note how I first did the new line before I erased the old one. So there. So now we have our barn. And if there is a fence right here, so the fence was right here and it was like this. So the fence would also point to the vanishing point. So see the vanishing points there. So if I were to do a line for the fence would be here. And then the fence would be here, let's say. So it's about this high. So it also points to the vanishing point. So my fence would be here. You know, the little poles for the fence. So these two lines are almost parallel, but one points a little down and one points a little up. So now there's a lot of lines here. I'm going to stop the recording, erase the lines that we don't need so you can see the barn better. So in this example, you know, there is a vanishing point on either side, except the paper is way too small to represent it. So one has to, you know, remember the concept, but also imagine where it is. So maybe it's somewhere over here for this, because this goes down and this goes kind of like almost straight. So the vanishing point is somewhere over here. Whereas for that, these two, this one, and this one, they're almost all horizontal. So the vanishing point was like way over there, a third neighbor's yard or something. See, this one goes down a little bit. If I put my ruler here, I can see. So this one, this is the angle of this. And if I were to keep this angle, I could see it's not the same angle as this line.
Right.
Okay.
So these two lines, they converge, but way in the distance over there. And so when I was drawing this, I had to imagine my vanishing point over there and really get the angle that I saw on the building I was looking at in order to put the right angle on the roof lines. But understanding this concept helps for when you need to do a house, then you know why it is that this line is not parallel with this line. You know, this line and this line are not parallel because this is closer to me. And as a result, because it's closer to me, it appears to me to be taller than this.
Mm-hmm.
That's why. That's what happens. So I was standing in this area, and that's why I can see all of this. If I were
So when you say
standing
closer to me, you mean the right side of the building?
the right side of the building, correct. So if I had been standing right facing the building, I couldn't have seen this.
Right.
Yeah. So think of, you know, when you see someone walking away on the sidewalk, when they're right next to you, they're the same height as you. But if you see them like 500 feet from you, they're going to be like a little person like this. Same concept. Anyway, enough talking. You guys have got to get to work, unless you have other questions.